All right, well, here's a video on repairing the window cowl as best I could on my 69 Charger. This thing was so beat from, being vandalized and stripped down back in the 80s that I thought for sure the only way to maybe fix this was to replace it and drill out all the spot welds and look for a donor car. But after it turned out, like you'll see later, I'm really glad I didn't do that. I really hate to cut this car up any worse than it might already be. Anyhow, those are the access points that you can get inside the cowl, just the fresh air intakes. And so there's one on the driver's side and one on the passenger side, and the only access inside that cowl is to go through there. So these dents that you see, I could get to some of those with a pry bar or a body hammer, but all this stuff in here you can't reach with anything from inside the car. You'd have to cut all that stuff out and weld a new one in, and I wasn't about to do that. So in this video, it's just a video of what I did to try to save this piece without having to replace it. There's the start of what I had to start with. And you'll get to see some techniques I've come up with to straighten these out. So that's a 1-inch piece of conduit with some mechanics wire tied to it. And I was able to get quite a few pulls on that before the wire would break. Then you have to fish that whole mechanism back through there again and start from scratch. So you can move it around in 20 different places to get the best pull on about 10 or 12 of those at a time. And, individually they're pretty weak. So you can bend one at a time real easily. But if you grab onto a dozen of them at once, you can bend that whole panel up, and using a little body tools and some pressure to relieve them, they wanted to come back out straight again. So all of them but about 5 or 6 are pretty much perfectly straight by the time I got done. All right, so this Harbor Freight spot welder, nail welder, whatever you want to call it, dent puller, is probably one of the best things I ever spent $100 on. And that actually turned out to be just the right thing for this. I probably used about a dozen of these in the low spots on the cowl. And then using that hook, that green hook, I was able to pry up on that and straighten out things pretty well. So see how that goes. What does this look like? Turns out the Louisville Slugger is actually a pretty good method, pretty good tool for this method. It just has a nice rounded, kind of a softer edge on it, so it doesn't really stretch the metal out or anything like that. You can pry up from underneath the cowl, and that might be a good tool for, I think wood is actually kind of a nice body dolly in some cases, probably better than a regular steel dolly because it doesn't stretch the metal so much. So here's the cowl as it's coming together. It's not a finished product yet from where I got it, but there's maybe 5 or 6 of these louvers that are pretty much always going to be dented. I don't think I can get them all, but overall I think out of the 2 dozen of them that are on there are most of them straightened out. Here's the tool that's going to finish this project. Just an old part of a T-square. Got it kind of close on the first try. Anyhow, just flat so I can lay it in here. And these ones that are just warped a little bit like that. On top of that, pull out a few of these. And there's this hook. And it doesn't take much. You can just pull on this a little bit, get some pressure on it. All right, well, anyhow, thanks for watching. This is a little closer to the final product here of where I'm going to leave it for now. Probably come back later in the year and do some more later. Let's see, soon I'm going to put up a video on the heater box. I restored the heater box on this car. And anyhow, maybe somebody will get some use out of that. You guys have a good night. Thank you.